All right, sweet. Recording is started, and this is the January 25th, 2024 Crossplane community meeting. This is, I have to look at the calendar, but I believe this is the last community meeting before we release the 1.15 milestone. So there is a bunch of stuff that I do want to check up with people on as we're getting close to the release here. So this definitely will be a status heavy meeting, but it'll be very current and very timely status so that we can focus on finishing off 1.15 and getting it out the door. So Philippe, I think you've got a bit more context today from your European time zone head start. So can you give us just a quick catch up on, like, have we cut the release branch yet? Have we started feature freeze? Where are we at?
Not yet. We created the issue for the release. We were trying to rush a few final changes and a final feature for the CLI, so the trace subcommand supporting packages also. And so we kind of slowed down on cutting the branch. We are in a pretty good situation there, so probably we'll touch the topic later. So either by tomorrow morning or this evening, we'll cut the release branch and cut a release candidate also.
All right, perfect. So that is a good update then. So let's look then at the board itself. I took a pass on this earlier this week to get realistic about what's actually being focused on and what's shipping here. So I think the board should be pretty clean and pretty up to date. Folks, feel free to interrupt and mention things that should be on the board that are not. But let's go through what we've got left and what's going on as we're converging on the feature freeze, which will cut the release branch, and then a week of bug fixing and stabilization before we get to the code freeze. Okay, sweet. So we will talk about the default registry change later on with some more detail about the impact and such, but that the code changes are in, those have been merged into master. Those will be part of the release branch when we cut it. So I don't anticipate from a feature perspective, that's done. So we do have more documentation and, release notes and, lots of stuff like that we'll talk about later. So that's why I'm keeping it in review and not yet quite in the done column. Philippe, I wanted to check with you, and maybe is Pertrag on the call as well for this specific issue here. And then maybe Bob as well, I think, because Bob had opened it to begin with. So we took a stab at fixing this continuous reconciliation on OpenShift, but it looks like that the attempted fix didn't quite solve the problem. Is this something that we may still be able to focus on or drive to a conclusion within the, before code freeze?
Before we might have another stab at it. There is no clear solution actually, so it's not. There is no. If we had a solution, we would have merged the PR with that. So it's still there is a workaround, so it's not super urgent. We know how to handle that. We still need to invest some time into it, and hopefully we'll manage to. It's a high priority for after feature freeze and before code freeze to address this too.
Okay, sweet. So you would agree then with still keeping it on the board here, having it on the radar, and if we get some time in, before code freeze, to continue trying to do some investment on it.
Yeah.
Awesome. If and Bob, does that sound good to you as well, since you opened the issue here? Are you aware of the workarounds already too, Bob? Do you know what that is?
I probably do, but I can't. If I know it, I don't remember that I know it. So.
Awesome. So then
it was providing a service account created by the user instead of using the one created by.
Oh, right. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a huge problem for us at the moment. It's just one of those things that would be nice to get cleaned up.
Got it. Cool. And then if we are not able to arrive at a solution that we feel good about that works here, then at the minimum, we should document or make more discoverable what that workaround is, so folks can find it. And that's probably appropriate to do on the issue itself. So if, you know, some people come looking for, like, I have this issue, I found this as well, and having a clear workaround called out on the issue probably is a reasonable scope. Cool. All right. Next. So yeah, so the trace command in the so extending trace to be able to cover package types as well. I still think this is fantastic functionality, and it is the last feature item that was part of our full complete plan for developer experience improvements in the 1.15 milestone. So you know, we've had the initial implementation in a draft PR for a while since the holidays, and then Lovro and Philippe are driving this to closure. And Philippe, you said that this is one specifically that we hope to get merged in, and you know, then we'll cut the release branch after that. That's the expectation.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. And yes, and you'll be showing off that functionality in a little demo in some shape or form later on the agenda.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, then so let me make sure that I'm correct in saying that that was the final feature for developer experience. And yes, it does look like it. So the schema validation, initialization hooks for repos, adding Steven's awesome conversion migration tools for this to the CLI. The top command is done. So all that stuff is done in merged, and these issues are closed. And yes, confirmed, this is the last feature for developer experience stuff. So that would be awesome to land that and deliver on all the features that we wanted to for 1.15. There are, so Esgi and Lovro specifically, you know, there still are some like bugs and issues that are part of this issue here. So, you know, during after feature freeze and during code freeze, before code freeze, we can consider still taking some of these fixes. Maybe some of them are a little more featurey than bugs, but we can discuss and stay in close contact about, you know, if there's any of these that we want to take or focus on to get as bug fixes in before we ship. Awesome. Is Nick on the call here? Nick is not. Okay, so I did sync up with Nick yesterday, and so there is an outstanding thing to figure out for this particular fix, I believe. So there was a pull request that was merged. So it's in the code base now in the main branch, and it added server-side apply functionality to the claim controller. So there is some discussion and feedback from Nick around there are some behavior changes that brings up, and so we want to get to a decision here. I don't think the decision's been made yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. We want to get to a decision here of, we know this is important functionality that server-side apply fixes a lot of bugs that have been, you know, plaguing some of the composition engine for a while. But with the behavior change, we may want to put it behind a feature flag for this release, so that we don't immediately have changes in compositions that are arguably the correct thing to do, but would be behavior changes nonetheless. So that is an outstanding conversation as far as I know, and something to track as well, potentially before we cut the release branch, Philippe. Is anyone on the call to add anything to that though? Predrag's not on, Nick's not on. So that may be all the context we've got for now then. Okay. Cool. Okay. And then project maturity stuff. Yeah, that's I think everything that we wanted to do. So Jean did a great job of helping out with this. Thank you, Jean, for doing that. And we completed successfully the core infrastructure initiative. I think it's called OpenSFF now or something like that. The badge that we need that says that we're following best practices and it's part of the graduation requirements. We have that badge now. It's passing. It's part of the graduation template. We're all good there. There is more stuff to do for project maturity that like the CLO monitor stuff has some good requirements in it that do continue to demonstrate a maturing and like project that is at a really good state. It is not a strict requirement for graduation. So, you know, it's not like I've hold anything for that, but continued investment in that will be prudent, I believe, but not something we need to hold the release for or hold a graduation proposal for. Cool. And then Ezgi, it looks like you maybe assigned yourself to this particular issue and started taking it on. Did you already make some progress on that, or did you just get going?
I did some progress on that. I think I found the issue and I have a proposal solution for it. I'm gonna open the PR tomorrow after I test the upgrade scenarios, just to make sure that we are not gonna break anything. And then I'm gonna open the PR. I think we can have it before the branch cut. I'm gonna sing with Felipe.
Cool. And then, and Ezgi, like, I thank you very much for taking this on. That's awesome. And I am perfectly okay with this being a bug fix as well. If, you know, after the release branch gets cut, that's totally reasonable as well. So I wouldn't, we don't, you know, we want to get to a good place where we feel good about that PR and that behavior. And we don't have to hold the release branch for it. But I would definitely take that change still before we ship. So thank you for taking it on.
Sure.
Awesome. Okay, sweet. And then the only other thing on the board here is in the backlog. It does not have an assignee yet, but Nick and I synced yesterday and decided to keep it in the project board for now. So this is an issue that does not yet have an owner. And if anybody gets some spare time before we get to code freeze, if we want to take this on, then it is open for someone to go ahead and take. So I will continue to leave that on the board there. Awesome. So that's the entire milestone, everything on the board. We've gone through it all. That's everything that I think I'm aware of. We also, maybe we should put the doc stuff on here as well, because there's plenty of new features and docs to update and make sure that we've got everything. All the new stuff is people will understand how to use it and take advantage of it. But other than that, is there anything else I'm forgetting on people's minds for 1.15? Okay, great. Then it looks like we're in decent shape here. One thing that Philippe, I wanted to sync up with you, and maybe I'll do it later on. But one thing to think about is for the release date. You know, we haven't, early February is the goal still, and we are on track for that. One thing to be aware of is the first week of February. A lot of people from the contributors to the project will be offline and not available to help out. So I think that, you know, you'll be around, but I don't think it would be an ideal situation for you to run the release all by yourself, especially if, you know, we do the release and a regression comes up and we need to scramble to get a patch out or something like that. I think it would be more wise to have a, you know, full staff on deck to support the release. So I probably want to wait until after the week of, you know, February 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever, like, and maybe the 11th, or I'm not looking at a calendar right now, but something like that when people are all back online to support. But we can sync up further on that.
Totally makes sense.
Sweet. All right. So 1.15 looking good. Super excited to ship that and get that in people's hands. We will probably next community meeting, like once we get 1.15 out, I think we'll talk more about future plans and more roadmap and stuff like that. Anything otherwise though on people's minds that they want to talk about for a roadmap or mention things that are priorities to people or anything like that, floor is open for a bit. Okay, cool. Well, then we must be solving the right problems, which is a great thing to do. All right, so let's keep moving through to the rest of the sections in the agenda document. Is there someone on the call that would be happy to handle the provider updates and stuff? I can handle it if not, if someone else doesn't have more context than I do. No, I don't think so. Yeah, okay. I will take it. Whoa, okay, I'm jumping around the agenda document, sorry. Okay, sweet. So, there's a round of updates for some of the main cloud providers. And then there's definitely one I wanted to talk about as well for provider Kubernetes had an update. For the 0.11 update there is standardized on the management policies such as observe only, ignore changes, all that type of functionality. It's standardized on that with the upstream consistent implementation that the rest that is in core Crossplane and the rest of the providers are using. So 0.11 went out. I'm really happy we did this. It had conversion webhooks in place as well, so that it could automatically do the migration from the V1 Alpha 1 to V1 Alpha 2 that changed the homegrown management policies that provider Kubernetes had in there for quite a long time to be using the standardized, consistent management policies that the rest of the provider ecosystem is using. So that's done automatically with a conversion webhook. And Lovro, thank you very much for digging into that and getting that out there. So I think that was an important release for provider Kubernetes, and there were a couple of patches since then to take care of a couple of lingering issues with the implementation. So 0.11.2, I think, is the latest patch release of provider Kubernetes, and that would be the one to target if you're wanting to upgrade. But yeah, this is a long awaited change to provider Kubernetes to standardize with the rest of the provider ecosystem. Yuri and Bob, is there anything of interest? Why am I seeing this? Anything of interest to call out for the 0.14.0 provider Terraform release?
I think the only things that were in there was a security patch, and then there's a change to basically send a sig term to a running Terraform CLI command if the pod gets killed or if the context timeout expires, which causes the Terraform lock to be cleaned up, but it does not remove the external create pending annotation from the workspace. So the workspace still isn't going to reconcile after that until somebody goes in and cleans up the annotation. But it's a little bit cleaner on the Terraform side when something like that happens.
Okay, got it. Nice. Are there further upcoming releases planned for provider Terraform now as well?
I know there's a PR that people want in terms of storing the the Terraform plan output in the status of the workspace. I don't have the status of that PR off the top of my head. I've just been a little bit concerned about the size of the amount of data that would be potentially putting in the status, but maybe it's not an issue. So like I said, I think that one's probably, I know they wanted to get it in this release, it didn't make it, so it'll probably make it next time.
Is that behavior that could be made opt-in with like a provider command line arg or something?
Yeah, that's really my thought, is something we should probably do, either at an attribute to the workspace that says, hey, show me the output for this workspace, or like you say, as a CLI command for the provider.
Per workspace sounds even better.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's something that would be really helpful in terms of debugging. I'm just concerned that, number one, maybe sensitive information, although maybe that's not really a concern. And then just the size, the amount of information we'd be putting in the status. But.
Cool. And Bob, if you haven't already, it may be wise to also sync with Nick. And I think he has some opinions too about having that type of output in the status and the experience around that and implications of the API and stuff like that. So that may be a good conversation to have also if he hasn't already weighed in on it.
Yeah, I can check with him.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Okay, sweet. So then the Upjet related the code generation framework for Crossplane providers. There is a lot of improvements and re-architecture going into that is well on its way and is getting close to completion. So I believe, if I'm not incorrect on this one, I believe that within the next week or so, that we expect to do an upgrade or release provider AWS with support for conversion webhooks and automatic conversions between the versions of the CRDs, the support for all of the resources that were only available in the V5 of the Terraform providers, and obviously all continuation of all the massive performance improvements that have been made in recent time as well. So I believe that AWS will be rolling out with that in the fairly soon future. And then Azure, GCP, et cetera, will be a couple months after that one, if I think the timeline is still correct. So a lot of progress there, and that's definitely a huge leap forward for the provider ecosystem as it continues to be. So great work for everybody that's been focusing on that.
I remember at some point somebody mentioned plans to maintain a version 0.x branch that stays on Terraform Provider 4. In addition, is that still the plan, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, that is a good question, Matt, that I personally do not have the answer to myself. So we can follow up and get some information about what those plans may be, but I do not have an answer for that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, good question. Okay, sweet. So let's move on down into the community topics here. So as always, there's some interesting content and things from around the ecosystem. I didn't take a quick dive or a deeper dive to find and collect more of these. It was just a quick look there. So there's just a couple of interesting articles and videos from folks that people are more than welcome to take a look at. And if there's anything else that folks have written or recorded or published, as always, feel free to add it to this list, and we can make sure that folks get some more eyes on them. All right. So let's see here. So I wanted to give, in the spirit of the 1.15 release, I wanted to give some more updates about some changes. So the first one here in no Nick still, right? Yeah, okay, I'll take this. So yes, so Nick merged a PR that is already in the main branch, I believe. And basically for the Crossplane's RBAC manager, it has a couple of different modes of how you can instruct it to manage the permissions as new types are flowing in from providers and compositions and all that stuff. There was a mode called all that we believe does not have usage, and there is not really a reason to keep it at all. So Nick has done some work to keep it backward compatible for now. If you need to have that functionality, there is still a way to set a flag and to continue to use it. But for the default path, that particular mode of the RBAC manager has been removed. So if anybody still needs it, you still have access to it, and definitely let us know if you are using it and what the use case is, et cetera, so we can consider that. But we have not heard any feedback that this was in use by people. All right, and Matt, yeah, so what does this PR go to, Matt? Let's find out. Yeah, that's wrong. Let me find the right link real quick. I'll do this in another window here. Let's see. Yep, okay, it should be, I think, this one. Okay, so just off by one, Matt, not too bad. Thanks for calling that out. There we go. Okay, sweet. So we have talked about this a few times within the community meeting context here. So I think folks that regularly attend will have seen this already. In the 1.15 milestone and the release here, we are updating the package manager's behavior to, by default, when a registry is not specified, to use xpackage.upbound.io instead. With that behavior change, we have attempted to be pretty thorough here and get an understanding of all the scenarios out there, What happens during upgrades? What happens if you have the registry set or don't have it set? What happens if you set a different default and all that sort of stuff? So we've tried to understand the implications of this change, be very thorough with our testing of it as well. And so the big behavior change to call out here is listed in this PR. And this is the artifact that exists right now. We are taking the steps as well to write up this in more thorough details. So it will be part of the release notes. It will be part of the documentation in like a specific article about it as well. So a couple things I want to call out here. One is that there is an ability when you upgrade, if you want to retain the behavior from previous versions, you can do that. You can set a particular flag here. You can get the same particular behavior you'd had before. That was tested and that seems to work fine. So that is absolutely an option if you want to upgrade to 1.15 and not change any of your packages at all and keep the same behavior. That is an option. If you happen to perform the upgrade and you for any number of reasons that are totally valid, miss in the release notes and the upgrade procedure there about this change, and then you are impacted by it unexpectedly, we have the documentation will be able to help walk you through how to rectify and mitigate that scenario as well. So we're doing, all the things we can here to make sure that folks know about this, make sure that the behavior is clearly documented. And then if you do get into if you are impacted by this in an adverse way, clear instructions for how to rectify it essentially. So there will be a lot of work over the next couple of weeks here before we ship to get all this written up and get the communications out on this as well. But I wanted to call this out within the context of this community meeting so folks are aware of it here as well. Yeah, basically, if you're in doubt when you upgrade, upgrade with that flag and that's the safest thing to do. All right. Crossplane maintainers, were there any other changes that we wanted to call out here in terms of things that would be in the release notes to call out? I think that's the two ones I'm aware of. Potentially the server-side apply changes, and if that's behind an alpha flag, or not, the outcome of that one may impact this as well, but that's not concluded yet. Cool. All right. Cool. Oh man, I keep jumping all over the doc here. Sorry, folks. I wanted to call out, since the last meeting, Nick did get the full guide merged into the Crossplane docs on how to write a function using Python now in the Python SDK. So there's a full walkthrough here that you can go through, and similar to what we had for writing a function in Go, there's a full set of steps from A to Z on creating your composition, writing your function, testing it locally, pushing it to a registry, etc. So this is new content here that for folks that are familiar with Python and love Python, this would be a great start for you to be able to start writing your functions using the Python SDK and focusing on that. So I wanted to call that out for folks. Okay, cool. And then this week, maybe in the last 24 hours, perhaps, the KubeCon Paris schedule was announced. So all the acceptances and rejections, et cetera, went out to folks a couple days ago, and now the schedule is up. So I wanted to this link is in the document here if you want to check out some search results of what talks are accepted and part of the lineup here that mention Crossplane. I think that this does not show things that would be in the what are they called? The co-located events, the 0-day events. I think this is just for the main lineup. So there may be other talks that are in, I don't know, the platform engineering day or I don't know, Argo day or whatever, that also mention Crossplane, but I think this search only finds ones that are part of the main event. I see Philippe's name twice here. So you're going hard with your talks in this KubeCon, man. So get started on that soon. And
A few hours
congratulations.
apart. A few hours apart too.
Oh, they are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Nice, buddy. Cool. I hope you have some good speakers, whoever is speaking with you. Otherwise, I hope they're good. I hope they are helpful. Yeah, that's man, that's a packed day for Wednesday with Crossplane stuff. And it does kind of it's a bit disappointing that 3 of them are in the exact same time slot. That's a bit unfortunate. Also a bit unfortunate as well is that while we got our traditional typical maintainer track, the intro and deep dive talk that tends to be fairly useful for folks. Unfortunately, we were declined, or our proposal to do another Contrib Fest was rejected. So that is not part of the schedule here, unfortunately. And I was a bit surprised by that. So I reached out to the speaker team at the CNCF to get feedback on that. And they responded pretty quickly saying that they will deliver feedback on that decision, but they have to do some syncing and alignment or whatever with the program selection committee and the chairs and all that jazz. So it will be a couple weeks before we get feedback on that one. But I found that disappointing that we don't get to do a Contrib Fest again, because I found those to be super. I found this to be really, really valuable, but also really cool to bring together community, get in the same room, get on our laptops, do some stuff together. I really enjoyed those experiences. So I'm a bit disappointed about that one. Did anyone else here on the call get talks accepted that maybe don't show up in these search results on Crossplane? Anybody else get some talks accepted? Clement, did you put some talks in as well, dude?
No, I didn't. I won't be in Paris at that time, so that's why I didn't.
Oh, bummer. Okay. That's too bad. That's like your home, your home
Yeah, that's
country.
right.
And that's too bad you won't be there.
Yeah. No, I'm aiming for the next one in Salt Lake City.
Cool. Yes, also a really cool city, just like Paris. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, congratulations to folks that got talks accepted. And I don't think it's related to Crossplane, but Muafik got a talk accepted as well. So congratulations to him as an emeritus maintainer of Crossplane. And so he will be there as well and wants to hang out with the community here and catch up with everybody too. So be on the lookout for Muafik in Paris. All right, Philippe, I would love for you to show the ways in which you have improved my janky initial implementation of Trace. So I will stop sharing my screen and allow you to show all the ways in which you've improved my shoddy initial effort.
No, the code was already in a good place. We just improved a little bit the coverage and smoothed a few rough edges. It's still work in progress, as I was saying earlier. Let me share my screen. So the PR is actually in draft, but we could actually make it ready for review. Let's do it live. Yeah, so the point of the PR was to add to the trace subcommand, which is a tree-like view, similar to cube lineage, if you know that, to show. Before it was just showing recurses, so like you could give it a composite resource claim or a composite resource, and it will show the whole tree of recurses composed, even with nested compositions and stuff like that, nested composite resources and stuff like that. And the point of this PR was to add support for packages, so configurations, providers, functions, and their revisions. And we know configurations can be really complicated, so it was obviously helpful to have something like that. And Jared, as he was saying, started the work for that. So let's just jump into that. This is an example of deployment of a configuration platform ref AWS, which is, as you might see, a pretty complex configuration. Let me zoom in a little bit. So the whole point is you can see how things are nested and everything is healthy, but what happens if something is not healthy? Similar to the previous implementation, you can get some more visibility into the whole tree, something is wrong and why it's wrong with the helpful messages and stuff like that. Similar to the other implementation for composite resources, we have in the default view, we can see the version of each package, but with wide we can see a little bit more information, which obviously is going to be wider. So, for example, packages and full messages if needed, etc., etc. There are also a few additional flags which were already implemented by Jared to show in different ways packages and their dependencies. Like if you want to show only unique dependencies or all of them, so not to just to avoid repetition and to make it a little bit shorter, because you have seen it might get a little bit messy if you have lots of dependencies and revisions, whether you want them or not. And maybe we'll manage to sneak in also support for controller configs and deployment runtime configs. That's still a work in progress. The PR is almost ready. There is only a little bit more testing to do and maybe some refactoring. We'll see if we manage to do that before feature freeze or we will just do it later on. Any question? Otherwise, I'm done.
Awesome, Philippe. I like this has traditionally been a big challenge for adopters of Crossplane as you install providers that have dependencies or configurations that are complicated and have a huge dependency graph. It's been very unclear when you install a provider or a configuration or even a function now as well. It's been very unclear how to determine what's happening under the covers or if it's healthy or what the problem is if it's not. So yeah, like Trace has been a really, really good addition, I think, to the Crossplane experience to understand and get insight into the Crossplane, the control plane and everything that's going on in it, and being able to identify and rectify issues quickly. So I think this is a really good functionality to add to that, to be able to do this for more parts of the Crossplane type system. And I like where the polish that's going into it now too. My one recommendation would be, while having deployment runtime configs and showing off those in the graph is interesting, I would not hold like feature freeze or release done. So getting the functionality polished and test passing and all that's reviewed and review feedback integrated and all that stuff. If that is all gets done, then yeah, I would just go ahead and merge it and call it done, and we can consider adding that functionality later on. But I wouldn't hold anything for it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Just I did some initial checks and it's not super straightforward, so most probably we are not going to ship it in 1.15. It's going to be a later addition.
Cool. That's reasonable to me. And then yeah, we can open an issue on it and track that. And there's always useful stuff to continue building in the future. Crossplane's not going anywhere. Awesome. So that was the end of the agenda document. Let me just share my screen again real quick. So it looks like Christina is starting to add one more thing to the agenda document.
Yes.
Spotlight on you, Christina.
Okay. So I had a question about the provider installation. I'm very happy with how far the project has come and how much easier it is to install it with the new documentation and everything. However, our customers are still seeing like when you install the Helm chart for Crossplane, it's a Helm chart, so it installs very nice, but there is no Helm chart for the AWS provider, or for that matter, for any provider. And it would be nice if you can just have a Helm value of true or false, and it installs the defaults, and then you can pass it some options there. Are you looking into bundling those in like separate Helm charts? What is the plan on installation for the providers?
Bob, did you have something you wanted to say? I saw you come off mute.
Yeah, I mean, you could, for example, have a values.yaml override file that includes the provider definitions that you want. So as part of deploying, I believe this is true, I hope I'm not lying, as part of deploying the Crossplane Helm chart, there's an extra objects section in the values.yaml, I believe, that you could, for example, put the manifests for the additional providers that you wanted in and just install everything right up front. I guess I'm not entirely sure how well that works with providers in terms of, just because the Crossplane is providing the CRDs for those providers. I'm not sure if Helm would, I'm not sure how Helm would react to that. But that was just the first thing that came to mind.
Christina, what's the use case? Would the Crossplane package not have the dependencies for the providers, and then the installation would be based on those dependencies?
So right now, how our customers are installing Crossplane is they're installing the Crossplane Helm chart. They're not passing those extra objects in the Crossplane Helm chart, and then they're going and they're installing providers separately, but it's like file after file. You know how you have to install the runtime config first, then the provider, and so on. So they're writing those YAML files separately, and they're supporting them. And it would be nice if they can just have that as a maybe separate Helm chart that it installs, or somehow bundled in the first one, to where if they use any tool such as, Flax or Ergo that installs Helm chart, they can just install it at the exact same process. It's just hard when we begin the engagements. The installation is still challenging. That's why I'm bringing this up.
Got it.
So it's
Okay, thank you.
So it's really a packaging question in terms of, if the providers included a default Helm chart, that would be something you could just install along with the Crossplane.
Yeah, and I can set up like I don't know, some dependency chain. I know there was I know Carlos like tried to pack this in the Helm chart, and if you install all of the files of the provider at the same time, it would go in I can send more information on that, but it will go in a loop. Like it's not going to come up like ever.
Right, because of the CRD dependencies.
Yes. So yeah, Carlos popped in, and he just like he created the Helm chart, but I don't want like if I point my repo to that Helm chart and I show it to our customers, I don't want us to be the ones supporting it. So that's why I'm asking, like, what is the plan? Can we take Carlos's Helm chart and put it in Crossplane? Like, what do you want to do with that? Is there a plan?
So this is an interesting question, Christina, because what I thought you were asking about first was, the installation of a provider that, is a package that has a number of CRDs with it. And like, I thought you were asking about like replacing, instead of providers being packages in the Crossplane, type system, like having providers be Helm charts. But it sounds like what you're describing here is not what I initially thought. It's like, installing a provider, or all the providers that you need, and all the things that they need to run as well, like the deployment and runtime configs and provider configs and all this stuff, right? Is what it sounds like. Yeah. So actually, Christina, this might be super, super relevant to you then. Nick opened up a proposal that's just being kicked around right now. It's an initial idea about manifest packages is what the initial moniker for them is. But it's kind of like, I think it's kind of describing the scenario that you're describing of, when you install a provider, or when you don't want to do something useful with Crossplane, there's a bunch of other initialization and objects that need to get created, and how can those be more like holistic or complete or bundled together or something like that. So if you haven't taken a look at this, Christina, check out this issue 5269, and it might be like a nice convergence of the needs and requirements you're talking about and what this is proposing.
Okay, I'll read through it. Do you mind dropping a link here?
Yep, I'll put it right there. Yeah, manifest packages. Yeah, funny timing. Yeah, and then like so understanding the use cases here and you know what you're seeing with your customers and you know that would be super useful there. So yeah, I think that would be a great place to follow up on this.
Yeah, okay. I'll read through it.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. Anything else that folks want to bring up before we go ahead and adjourn and ship this 1.15 thing? All right, then I think that's it. Yeah, thanks everybody for showing up today. Thanks for all the work that's been going into 1.15. And we're excited to get that out the door and keep moving things forward. So good to see everybody, and we'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.